The year was 2411. I woke up with a jolt that rattled the entire module. The visor on my helmet projected real-time telemetry data, but what caught my attention was the warning flashing in red. Communication signal lost. Perfect. Alone on Saturn's farthest moon and completely cut off from Earth. Just another day in the life of Ethan Carter. I glanced out the small side porthole. Outside, the landscape was the same as always. A frozen desert under a methane-filled sky, illuminated by Saturn's pale golden light. Titan was both fascinating and unbearably lonely. My mission was simple. Gather data on the subsurface ice. Routine. At least, that's what they told me. But something was wrong. My radar had picked up an unusual thermal signature about 15 meters below the surface. That didn't make sense. Not in a place where the average temperature was cold enough to freeze your soul. As I adjusted my drilling equipment, a rumble echoed beneath my feet. It was as if the ground itself had taken a deep breath. My heart raced. I checked the radar again. The thermal signature was moving. That couldn't be right. "What the hell is down there?" I muttered. The drilling revealed something I can hardly describe. It was a glow, not a reflection of light, but something pulsating, almost alive. Curiosity, as always, overpowered fear. I grabbed a small explosive charge, standard equipment for accessing denser ice, and backed up a few meters before detonating it. The ground quaked and a massive fissure opened before me. For a moment, I thought I'd just drilled straight into hell. There was an enormous cavern, its walls glowing in hues of blue and green, like liquid glass. But the strangest part was what lay inside. Gigantic metallic towers aligned with absurd precision. This wasn't natural. Damn it! This is alien technology! I began my descent with a winch. The adrenaline was almost unbearable. When I reached the bottom, things got even stranger. The silence was absolute, yet an odd vibration lingered in the air. I can't explain it. It felt like the entire place was breathing. Inside the structure, I found something I'll never forget. Suspended in midair were capsules, hundreds of them, containing humanoid figures. Their skin was translucent, their eyes seeming alive even though they were closed. As I explored further, I stumbled upon what looked like a control console. The screens flickered with symbols I couldn't comprehend, but one of them displayed something that sent chills down my spine. It was a 3D model of the human brain. Red lines connected different regions, accompanied by text I managed to translate as neural dominance. My blood ran cold. These bastards were planning something big, and the worst part? In some of those capsules, I realized the figures weren't alien. They were human. I needed to get out of there, but not before figuring out exactly what they were doing. My mind raced. If I wasn't careful, I might end up as one of those things in the capsules. My breathing was heavy, every exhale echoing within the helmet. The visor displayed my heart rate, spiking dangerously. I tried to focus, but everything around me felt ripped straight out of a nightmare. I approached one of the capsules and, against better judgment, placed my gloved hand on the translucent surface. A piercing cold shot through my hand, and the figure inside seemed to stir, as if aware of my presence. Then came the sound. Not a typical noise, but a low vibration, almost subsonic, that resonated directly in my skull. It was as if something, or someone, was attempting to breach my mind. I let out a yell and stumbled backward. "Stay calm, Ethan." "You can get out of this mess," I muttered to myself, trying to suppress the rising panic. Instinct told me the console held the answers I needed. I studied the screens and noticed a repeating sequence of symbols. They resembled codes, possibly a language. In the corner of one screen, a countdown timer was ticking. 0, 2, 14, 37. What? A countdown to what? The sound intensified. This time, it wasn't just a vibration. It was a voice, or something resembling one. Incoherent phrases echoed in my mind, mixed with words I recognized in English: control, domination, invasion. The pieces started falling into place. They weren't just building a weapon. They were creating a method to control human minds. This wasn't about killing. It was about enslavement. I approached one of the smaller capsules, where what appeared to be a human was suspended. His skull bore scars, as if something had been implanted. Examining the console nearby, I discovered what seemed like an electronic log. With trembling hands, I activated the interface. It was a recording. Experiment 238 complete. Human subject fully synchronized. Mental control achieved successfully. My vision blurred for a moment. Successfully? That meant they had already tested this on humans, and won. I had to act. Anything. But my brain screamed that I couldn't fight this alone. Frantically, I scanned the room for something. Anything that could serve as a weapon. That's when I noticed a red light flashing down a distant corridor. I moved toward it cautiously, the humming noise growing louder with every step. I reached what appeared to be a control room. The space was dominated by vertical structures glowing in pulsating hues of red and orange. There was something fundamentally wrong about this place. Once again, alien symbols danced across the screens. But there was something else, a holographic projection of Earth, marked with indicators over strategic locations. They appeared to be capitals. No, 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 these bastards are planning an invasion. I knew what I had to do. I had to destroy the facility before the countdown hit 0. As I analyzed the controls, it became clear. The entire facility was interconnected to a massive energy core at the center of the room. If I could overload it, I might trigger an explosion large enough to obliterate the entire base. The problem was obvious. I was still inside it. Damn it, a real hero would have a plan. But me, I'm just a guy trying to survive. Even so, I got to work. My improvised plan was as reckless as it was dangerous. Overload the central core and run before everything went up in flames. The catch? I had no idea how this alien technology worked. Everything about it was more advanced than anything NASA or any other Earth agency could ever dream of. Still, I had no choice. I began tinkering with the consoles, trying to identify anything related to the core's controls. My knowledge of space engineering was only somewhat helpful, but certain patterns were universal: energy, overload, fusion. I managed to locate the primary control system, an interface that pulsed as if it were alive. Touching the screen caused it to react instantly, displaying what appeared to be a diagram of the energy core. There it was, glowing at the heart of the facility like a miniature star. All right, Carter, you've survived worse. Wait, no, you haven't. But there's no turning back now. I started manipulating the controls. Every action triggered a response in my surroundings. Lights flickering, vibrations intensifying, mechanical sounds echoing through the walls. It felt like the base itself was aware of the sabotage. Then I heard something that froze the blood in my veins. Footsteps. I turned toward the corridor where the sound originated. Shadows shifted in the dim light, elongated and distorted by the flickering illumination. Grabbing my plasma cutter, the only tool in my kit that could double as a weapon, I prepared myself. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. The figures emerged. They were tall, slender, and clad in translucent armor that shifted colors with the environment, like a chameleon. Their eyes glowed an intense blue, and the hum I'd been hearing now seemed to emanate directly from them. They were communicating, or perhaps trying to manipulate me. One of them lunged. I fired instinctively. The plasma beam struck its armor, knocking it back momentarily, but it didn't do much damage. The sound that followed was a chilling mix of an electronic screech and something visceral, like a wounded animal. I didn't have time to react before the others charged. Damn it! No, no, no! I bolted toward the core, firing blindly behind me as I worked to finish the overload. My helmet's HUD flashed with warnings, temperature rising, pressure increasing. The console timer now displayed 000758. It wasn't enough. I needed more time, but the aliens were closing in fast. Finally, I reached the core. It was a pulsating monolith, a living structure of condensed light and liquid metal. Tampering with it could very well kill me, but I didn't have a choice. I disabled the manual locks on the panel and initiated a full overload sequence. The entire base shuddered violently. The aliens hesitated for a moment, sensing the imminent danger. This was my chance. I sprinted back toward the corridor, heading for the exit. The ground cracked beneath my boots, walls sparking as the environment began collapsing around me. Everything seemed to conspire against me. Gravity fluctuated, and each step felt heavier than the last. My helmet's visor flickered, systems failing under the immense energy surges. The timer now read 00145. Come on, Ethan. You've got this. You're not dying in this frozen hellhole. I reached the ascent platform. Miraculously, my winch was still intact. Climbing as fast as I could, I ignored the blaring alarms that sounded like the base itself screaming in agony. As I reached the surface, I glanced back. The core's light was visible through the fracture in the crust, glowing with blinding intensity. Goodbye, you sons of bitches. I activated the emergency explosive charge I had left as a precaution. The core was already unstable, but this would be the final push. The ground heaved, and a massive energy wave erupted in all directions. I dove to the ground, shielding my head as the alien base imploded beneath Titan's icy surface. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked up at the sky, Saturn's pale golden light, reminding me that, somehow, I was still alive. I knew this wasn't over. They were far more advanced than I'd ever imagined, and that base likely wasn't the only one. But for now, at least, Earth was safe.